I want to stress the importance of consumers. So really consumers as the enabler of a system which is more efficient. How it can be done? Through a reduction, a static reduction of their consumption through energy efficiency measures, but also through a flexible way of consuming energy, more renewable energy in end user sectors. Only in this way, so thanks to energy efficiency and thanks to a flexible consumption, we can indeed help integrate more variable renewables in end user sectors and achieve a system which is more efficient. Let's allow me to give you some examples. We can avoid costs in renewables curtailment if demand sectors are able to flexibly consume renewables energy that by definition are weather dependent. So this is already a cost reduction possibility. We need to also have system operators that are changing the approach of approaching congestion, to manage congestions at local level included, so at distribution level. So now system operators are just thinking in expanding their networks, their grids with more copper, but they could actually use the flexibility that consumers, all the end user sectors have to actually solve this congestion. So it's really a change in the management of the networks, relying on consumers, relying on their flexibility to save costs because they are modifying the way that they are operating their systems. Another examples to have indeed a more efficient system with consumers on board is, and Hans was mentioning before, avoiding consumption in peak times. So if we are shifting consumption in that moment, we will avoid gas peak power plants to operate. And so thanks to this consumer participation, we will reduce inputs from gas, and we will increase our resilience and independence. So at the end, a consumer that in different ways can actually contribute to have a system which is more efficient and more sustainable. Because indeed we can achieve climate neutrality in very expensive way, but if we are enabling consumers to be at the heart of this transition, it will be more beneficial for the consumer itself and for the energy systems. Now, we have, because of what has also been discussed, European institutions that are valorizing in this emergency situation the role of consumers. And indeed, we are very satisfied that the European Commission and currently indeed member states are discussing about a peak electricity demand reduction, which has indeed consumers as the key players to achieve that target, because indeed if we are shifting consumption in peak times, you need to empower and to give the signals and the incentive for consumers to achieve that kind of contribution. So we are very much satisfied that it is going to, we are going to that direction. And we as smartEn, together with DNB, we calculated the impacts of these shifting in consumption, in particular in this crisis. In 2023, we calculated that 3.7% of Russian gas imports can be reduced thanks to a flexible consumption. And in total gas savings, this is accountable to as around 16 billions of euros that can be saved in total gas costs if we have in 2023, so in next year, a flexible consumption that is able to reduce gas inputs. So it's an emergency solution that can be immediately activated, and we think that this peak demand reduction target will be a stimulus to activate that. But we also think that this flexible way of consumers of interacting with the systems needs to be maintained in the long term. And that's why in 2030, this makes very much sense to help achieve the greenhouse gas emission target, help achieve the renewables target in a cost-effective way. And for that, we need flexible assets that are able indeed to provide this flexible capacity. Okay, And that's why the APBD needs to fit into that perspective. The Renewables Directive needs to push for more decentralized energy resources. We need to have more chargers of electric vehicles that are smart and are enabling this dynamic, time-dependent way of consuming more variable renewables. And we need also an energy efficiency directive that is embracing this perspective. So it's not just looking at the efficiency of individual products or a static energy reduction of their consumption, but also this time-dependent, flexible, and dynamic adaptation of the energy consumption to allow in this integration. So thanks, Nils, for introducing also in your amendments a proposal for a wording on energy system efficiency, because indeed we needed to embrace in that direction, go in that direction, and we needed to have member states on board in that sense, so not just looking at individual static savings, but also how consumers, through their flexibility, can contribute to have a system which is more cost effective in the way that they are achieving the 2030 target.